What backup software should I use? Hi everyone, Leo Notenboom here for askleo.com. I talk about backing up a lot, and there's a reason for that. Not enough people do it. It seems like it really does take one disaster to essentially spread the religion of backing up. Losing something important because you weren't backing up is one of those things that then convinces you that maybe you should have been backing up all along. What I want to do in this video is cover basically what I think you should be doing. Now, if you're just looking for a step-by-step answer of what you should be doing, do this. Basically, equip each computer you have with an external drive. It should be at least 4 times as big as the amount of data on your internal drive. In other words, not 4 times the size of the drive you're backing up, but 4 times the size of the data that's on that drive. Install image backup software like EaseUS Todo. They have a free version and a paid version. Configure that program then to take monthly full backups and daily incremental backups. Make sure that that is on a schedule so that you don't have to think about it. Discard backups older than about 2 months. Most software, and I believe EaseUS falls into this category, can do this automatically if you configure it properly. Then install a data sharing program like OneDrive or Dropbox or Google Drive or any of a number of others, so that you can then do your work in the folders that these tools are managing, such that what you are working on gets updated or backed up in real time to the cloud service. That way, you've got your entire machine backed up every night and your work in progress backed up as you're working on it. So that's this list. That basically is an 80% solution that actually works well for, well, I would say most people. But of course, there are options. So let's talk about what some of those options are. One of the decisions that you end up making at the beginning is, do I back up everything or do I back up some things? Most folks would like to make sure that their data is backed up, but they don't realize that there are other important aspects of their computer that they kind of sort of wish were backed up. That's why I tend to go first to the image backup. The image backup backs up absolutely everything on your hard drive. No questions about what should or should not be backed up. It's all in the image. The alternative is what I would refer to as a files and folder backup. In other words, you pick which files and which folders on your machine are going to get backed up. Typically, that would be something like your documents folder, your pictures folder, wherever it is you're storing the data that you're working on or the things that would be unrecoverable some other way. That is fine. That works. It can be faster. It certainly can be smaller, but it relies on you knowing without any doubt what it is you want to back up. It won't back up, for example, the operating system or your installed programs or your settings, so that if you, for example, need to replace your hard drive due to a failure, you're faced with reinstalling Windows from scratch and reinstalling your apps from scratch, and then reconfiguring all those settings and then restoring your data. Whereas with an image backup, you replace the hard drive, restore the image, and you're done. It's good to go. Where to back it up to is another decision. Again, you'll notice that in my list, I started with getting an external drive for every machine. That, to me, is the simplest and most reliable place to back things up. You don't want to back it up on an internal drive. You can back it up to the cloud, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But having the external drive gives you the most room for the most complete backups and as many as you potentially would want to keep. Having it be external isolates it from a lot of the things that can go wrong in your machine while still giving you convenient access to those backups. Now, there is cloud backup software. I'm not talking about the OneDrives or the Dropboxes. I'm talking about specific backup software that, instead of backing up to an external hard drive, is designed to back up to the cloud. There are generally 2 problems with this. One, it really depends on the speed of your internet connection, whether or not that's even going to work for you. There are common scenarios where it could take 2 or 3 days to back up your entire machine, depending on the speed of your internet. The other problem is that if they're not doing an image backup, which of course is huge, they're doing a files and folders backup, which means that they may not be getting everything you actually want to get. This is why I recommend an image backup to start with. Leverage these tools like OneDrive and Dropbox so that you can use the cloud for any number of different things, one of which is this kind of real-time as you're going on backup. Another question that I hear from folks, and this is an interesting one, is automated or manual? I believe personally backup should be automated. I don't want something this important to rely on your memory. I don't want it to rely on my memory. So the important thing about that is that most of the backup tools will do things automatically for you if you configure them properly. However, the machine's got to be on. Now, in my case, I leave my machine running 24 hours a day. However, some people do not. For me, that means I can schedule my backups to happen in the middle of the night when I'm not using the machine. That's actually one of the reasons I leave them on. But if you are someone that shuts off your machine every evening or whenever, then there are some decisions you might want to consider. Backing up as you exit and letting the backup program turn off the machine for you is one option, or backing up when you sign in because the backup missed its overnight schedule, and therefore it's going to say, well, I didn't back up last night, so now that we're finally logged in, I'll do the backup now. Most backup programs shouldn't interfere with your use of the computer too much, but again, that's a decision that you'll want to investigate as you're setting things up. Another question, how many backups? Given that a system image is fairly large, how many of those do you want to keep? You can keep, as many as you have space for. That part's easy. You can't have too many backups. But realistically, you actually want to keep, I'll just say, a few. And I know that's really vague. Let's start with what's called the 3-2-1 backup strategy. Have 3 copies of your backup, the same backup. So if you create a backup last night, you then immediately copy that backup to 2 additional places so that you have 3 backups. 2 different formats. That means maybe one on your hard disk, your external hard disk, and one in the cloud. And then with 1 copy kept off-site. That's the cloud. I was saying that image backups don't necessarily lend themselves to getting copied to the cloud. That's okay. My safety net here is that you've got your image backups on your external hard drive. It's your data, then, that they're getting copied to the cloud, which is effectively another format and off-site. Yes, it does require or assume you know what to back up. If, by and large, you're doing your work in your OneDrive folder or your Drop folder or whatever, those are the files. And simply by putting them there with those tools running, you've actually checked both boxes. And then, of course, the other question is how long to keep them. I can't answer that. I tend to keep things for about 3 months. However, that's just me. The thing you're looking for, the reason to keep things longer than, say, even a week or a month is what is the reasonable expectation that you might need to find something from 3 months ago that isn't on your hard disk today or the most recent backups. Whatever that number is the number you want to take care of. For most folks, honestly, a month or 2 is plenty. It really is. But if you have additional needs, if you've got something that falls into that category where you think you might really need to go back further in time to recover some document, then you might want to be keeping more of those backups over time. I hope that helps. The bottom line here, though, is very, very simple. Please back up. As I've said before, it's kind of like weight loss solutions. The best backup software is whatever software you'll actually use. Hopefully, this has given you some things to look at, some decisions to make, and a direction to head. For updates, for comments, for links related to this topic and more, visit askleo.com/171435. I'm Leo Notenboom, and this is askleo.com. Thanks for watching.